Beloved chosen one, listen carefully, because this is not a random message crossing your path for no reason. This is a moment of mercy. This is a moment of interruption. Heaven is pressing pause on the noise around you so your spirit can hear what your flesh has been trying to ignore. There is an action in front of you, a decision lingering in the shadows of your thoughts, a step that may look small to the natural eye, yet in the spirit it carries the weight of destruction. Do not do it, no matter how reasonable it sounds, no matter how justified it feels, no matter how badly your emotions want relief. Do not do it. Some doors do not swing open with loud danger signs. Some doors open quietly, dressed like comfort, dressed like closure, dressed like freedom, while hiding chains behind their welcome. You already feel that tension, do you not? Part of you has been trying to move forward, to quiet the ache, to end the pressure, to silence the war inside your chest. But another part of you, deeper and older than fear, keeps pulling back. That pull is not weakness. That hesitation is not confusion. That holy unrest is a warning. God does not always shout first. Sometimes He lets conviction rise like a trembling in your soul, because He is giving you one more chance to stop before the damage begins. And this warning is for you because you are not ordinary. Your life carries weight in the unseen realm. Your obedience matters. Your choices echo farther than you know. What may seem like one private compromise can become the crack that lets darkness seep into places that took years of prayer to build. You have survived things that should have broken you. You have walked through rejection, misunderstanding, delay, betrayal, and nights so heavy you could barely speak your own prayers out loud. Yet you are still here. That is not an accident. You are still standing because there is oil on your life. There is purpose tied to your name. There is an assignment on your existence that hell has not been able to erase. That is why the pressure has increased. That is why the temptation has become more persuasive. The enemy does not waste this level of strategy on someone with no future. He studies what threatens his kingdom. And your calling threatens darkness. Your peace threatens darkness, or your testimony threatens darkness. Your obedience threatens darkness even more than your gifts ever could. So now the battle is not only around you, it is near your will. It is near your appetite. It is near your loneliness, your anger, your disappointment, your hidden exhaustion. The enemy knows that a tired heart can begin negotiating with things it would normally rebuke. A wounded mind can start calling danger a solution. A discouraged spirit can begin mistaking rebellion for relief. That is why you must slow down and hear this with spiritual clarity. Not every open door is from God. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every voice that comforts you is sent to heal you. Some voices soothe you only so they can weaken your discernment. Some options appear at the exact moment of your vulnerability because they are traps timed with precision. This is why your spirit has been restless. You have tried to push the feeling away. You have tried to explain it as stress, overthinking, or emotional fatigue. But beneath that surface struggle is a sacred signal. God is warning you because He loves you. He is not exposing this danger to shame you. He is revealing it to save you. There is still time to turn away. There is still time to shut the door. There is still time to say no before the consequence grows teeth. And hear this clearly. Chosen one. The action itself is not dangerous only because of what it does in the moment. It is dangerous because of what it begins. Some choices do not end where they start. They initiate a slow dying. They dull conviction. They weaken prayer. They make your heart less tender, your spirit less alert, your boundaries easier to bend. What you tolerate once becomes easier to revisit, and what you revisit can become what rules you. That is why this message comes with urgency, but not panic, with gravity, but also hope. You are being warned because you are still reachable. The fact that your heart is stirred means the door of mercy is still open. The fact that this message is piercing you means heaven has not turned away from you. Do not confuse conviction with rejection. Conviction is proof that God is still calling your name in the middle of the struggle. He is saying, come back to center, then come back to wisdom, and come back to the narrow path that protects what He placed within you. And right here, before you go any further, I want you to make one act of agreement with this warning. Comment 555 as a sign that you refuse the trap and choose obedience over destruction. Because this is where the shift begins, when you stop treating the warning like a suggestion and start receiving it like rescue. You do not need to understand every consequence in order to obey. You do not need a full map of the future in order to turn away from what God has already marked as dangerous. The only thing you need in this moment is humility strong enough to say, if the Lord is warning me, I will listen. If the Lord is checking my spirit, I will not force what He is restraining. If the Lord is interrupting my desires, I will trust that His protection is greater than my impulses. You are not weak because you are being warned. You are chosen, and chosen people are warned because they are entrusted with much. There is something precious in you that must not be handed over to self-sabotage. There is too much at stake for you to act carelessly now. The enemy would love for you to reduce this moment to emotion, but this is spiritual. He would love for you to call it harmless, but heaven is exposing its true name. He would love for you to delay, excuse, rationalize, and drift, because drift feels gentle while it carries souls toward ruin. So breathe, slow your heart. Pull your thoughts back under the authority of God. Let the noise settle. Let the warning land. And with all the love and force of heaven behind this message, hear the words again. Do not do it. Step back from the edge. Refuse the counterfeit. Protect your spirit. Guard your oil. The very action calling your name may promise relief, but it carries death in its shadow. And you were not chosen to die in a trap when you were marked to walk in glory. What makes spiritual danger so deadly is that it rarely arrives looking like death. It comes dressed in something softer. It approaches with a calm voice, a reasonable argument, a promise of relief, and a feeling that tells you that one small step will not matter very much. That is how many chosen people begin to drift. They do not wake up one morning deciding to abandon wisdom. They simply grow tired of resisting what keeps whispering to them. They grow weary of the pressure, hungry for comforts, thirsty for affection, or frustrated with delay. And in that weakened moment, the wrong thing begins to look harmless. That is why you must learn to fear the subtle trap more than the obvious attack. Because what is obvious can be resisted quickly, but what is subtle can be welcomed in as a friend. This is where the danger begins, not in the collapse itself, but in the quiet agreement that comes before it. A private excuse, a hidden compromise, a thought you keep entertaining because it feels good to imagine it. An attachment you defend even though your spirit has already warned you about it. The enemy does not always need to destroy you in one blow. Sometimes he only needs to make you comfortable with what is slowly draining your strength. He only needs to keep you moving 1 inch at a time away from the place where your discernment is strongest. He only needs you to keep saying, "This is not that serious. This is not that deep. This is not really changing me." But everything repeated shapes you. Everything you allow to linger begins to train your inner life. And eventually, what once disturbed your conscience becomes something you hardly notice at all. This is why the trap is so dangerous. It does not begin with chains. It begins with permission. It asks for one moment, one compromise, one secret, one emotional opening. Then it comes back for more. The enemy studies your hunger. He pays attention to the places where you are lonely, where you feel unseen, where disappointment has made you vulnerable, where anger has made you impulsive, where exhaustion has lowered your guard. Then he sends something that does not appear evil at first glance. It appears understandable. It appears comforting. It appears timely. Yet beneath that appearance is a design to move you away from obedience and into spiritual weakness. You can see this pattern in the life of Samson. He was not an ordinary man wandering through life without purpose. He was marked before birth. There was a calling on him that set him apart. Strength rested on him in a way that made him feared by his enemies and distinct among his own people. But the danger in Samson's story was not only the enemies outside him. It was the appetite within him that kept drawing him toward what his spirit should have rejected. His downfall did not begin the day everything fell apart. It began in the earlier moments when desire was allowed to speak louder than discernment. It began when what looked pleasing became more persuasive than what was holy. Samson kept moving close to the edge as though his calling would always protect him from the consequences of flirting with compromise. That is one of the most dangerous illusions a chosen person can believe. You may be gifted and still vulnerable. You may be called and still capable of drifting. You may have seen God move powerfully in your life and still make a choice that wounds your spirit. A strong anointing does not remove the need for obedience. In fact, the greater the calling, the more necessary your boundaries become. Samson had strength, but strength without restraint becomes a hazard. Power without surrender becomes instability. And what ruined him was not a lack of divine purpose. It was repeated closeness to what should have remained far from him. That is why this warning matters so much for you. The action in front of you may not look catastrophic. It may look small enough to manage. It may look like something you can visit and then walk away from whenever you choose. But that is exactly how compromise introduces itself. It never tells the truth about its final destination. It only sells the first step. It only talks about the sweetness of the moment, never the bitterness of the consequence. It highlights the thrill, the comfort, the temporary release, but hides the erosion that will follow. And once your discernment starts dulling, you can begin to defend the very thing that is draining your life. Scripture says, "Be sure your sin will find you out." Numbers chapter 32, verse 23. That verse is not merely a warning about public exposure. It is also a revelation about spiritual reality. What you tolerate in secret does not remain buried forever. It rises, it shows itself in your peace, in your clarity, in your prayer life, in your relationships, in the weight on your spirit, and eventually in the fruit of your life. Hidden compromise always leaves evidence. You cannot keep feeding what opposes God and expect your soul to remain strong and clear. Samson's story begins teaching this long before the final tragedy arrives. He keeps treating dangerous attraction as though it is a private matter with no larger consequence. He keeps stepping toward what should have made him retreat. And that is how many chosen ones are deceived today. They believe danger only exists once disaster becomes visible. But in truth, the real battle is earlier. The real battle happens when the wrong desire first asks for room in your heart. The real battle happens when you know something is off, but you keep entertaining it because part of you enjoys the feeling it gives you. The real battle happens in secret before it ever reaches daylight. So pay attention to what seems small. Pay attention to what keeps pulling on your weakness. Pay attention to what you keep trying to rename so you do not have to confront it honestly. The subtle trap is still a trap, even when it comes wrapped in beauty, sympathy, or pleasure. And the chosen one who survives is not the one who boasts in strength, but the one who respects warning. You do not need to stand at the center of destruction to know you are too close. If your spirit has already been troubled, that is enough reason to step back. Samson's path shows what happens when the soul keeps playing near the edge. And now the warning is in front of you, not to condemn you, but to keep you from mistaking the beginning of collapse for the beginning of comfort. By the time a chosen one begins to drift, the first signs are almost never dramatic. They do not always come as collapse, scandal, or obvious rebellion. More often they appear as small changes in the atmosphere of your inner life. Prayer starts feeling heavier than it used to. Peace becomes harder to hold. Your thoughts grow louder, but your discernment grows quieter. You find yourself defending attitudes that once troubled you, and you begin calling that change maturity, independence, or emotional survival. When in truth, something deeper is shifting. This is how the soul moves toward danger, not all at once, but little by little, through repeated neglect of what once kept you close to God. You may notice that your patience has shortened. Things that once rolled off your spirit now cling to you for hours. Offense feels stronger. Bitterness feels easier. Secret imagination becomes more attractive than holy discipline. You still know the language of faith, and from the outside you may even look the same. But inwardly something is thinning. The fire is not burning the way it once did. The warning system in your spirit is still there, but it is not as sharp. And because the early signs are subtle, many chosen ones keep moving forward without realizing they are already weakening. They wait for a bigger alarm, not understanding that the fading of spiritual sensitivity is already the alarm. This is where Samson's story speaks with such force. Before his life reached the place of visible ruin, there were already signs that his heart was becoming too comfortable with dangerous territory. He kept walking close to things that should have made him retreat. He kept entertaining what stirred his flesh even when it threatened his calling. That pattern matters. It shows that downfall often leaves footprints before it arrives. There are signals. There are warnings. There are moments when heaven whispers before heaven allows consequence to teach more loudly. In your own life, one sign of drifting is the loss of holy discomfort. At first, the wrong thing troubles you. Then you revisit it. Then you explain it. Then you manage it. Then eventually you stop feeling much at all. That numbness is not peace. That numbness is not freedom. It is the beginning of spiritual dullness. Another sign is when you stop seeking correction because you already know what it would tell you. You avoid stillness because stillness makes truth harder to escape. You fill your day with noise, distraction, and emotional substitutes because deep down you do not want to hear what conviction is saying. Yet the soul that avoids correction does not avoid consequence. It only postpones clarity while moving deeper into risk. Another sign is when your appetite starts ruling your decisions. You become easier to pull, easier to provoke, easier to seduce through emotion. What feels good in the moment begins to outrank what is right in the spirit. You know the boundary, but you resent it. You know the warning, but you grow tired of hearing it. You know the cost, but desire starts speaking louder than wisdom. Samson knew what it meant to be set apart. Yet there were moments when his appetites kept pressing him toward what his destiny should have resisted. That is the danger of being gifted without staying guarded. The stronger your calling, the more carefully you must watch what your desires are trying to normalize. You may also notice that obedience starts feeling inconvenient while compromise starts feeling understandable. This is a serious sign. When the flesh becomes persuasive enough, it can make disobedience look compassionate toward yourself. It can make self-sabotage look like healing. It can make rebellion feel like relief. But not everything that eases your emotions is helping your soul. Some forms of relief are expensive. They calm you for a moment, then rob you for a season. They soothe your pain while quietly reducing your spiritual strength. And by the time the cost becomes visible, you may already be wondering how you got so far from where you once stood. Watch also for isolation, not the healthy solitude where God restores you, but the kind of separation that makes you less reachable. You stop opening your heart honestly. You stop letting truth confront you. You prefer secrecy because secrecy protects the thing you do not want to release. This too is part of the drift. Darkness grows best where nothing is named. That is why the enemy loves private compromise. He knows that what remains hidden often remains untreated. Samson's journey shows the danger of repeated private weakness. What seems manageable in the shadows can become devastating when the harvest finally appears. And still, even here, there is mercy and recognition. The signs are not given to shame you. They are given so you can turn while there is still time. If this message is touching something tender in you, that is a gift. If you are realizing that your peace has changed, your hunger has changed, your discipline has changed, that awareness is not your condemnation, it is your invitation. God is letting you see the drift before it becomes destruction. He is letting you feel the edge before you fall from it. So do not harden yourself. Do not rush past what your spirit is noticing. Sit with it. Let truth do its work. Let conviction be a kindness instead of treating it like an enemy. And if this message is speaking directly into your life, let your response be more than emotion. Let it become action. Stay close to messages that sharpen your spirit. Like this message. Share it with someone who needs this warning. Subscribe so you can keep walking in this flow of truth. And if you feel led to support this work, there is a way to donate in the description. None of that replaces obedience, but it can mark a heart that is choosing alignment instead of drift. Because the signs matter. They are often quiet, but they are real. A dimming fire matters. A troubled conscience matters. A growing appetite for compromise matters. Samson's story did not begin in public ruin. It began with smaller signs that kept asking to be taken seriously. And now the same mercy is meeting you in your own moment. What you recognize early, you can resist. What you resist, you do not have to become. What you surrender to God now does not have to master you later. That is why this warning has come before the fall. While your spirit can still hear, while your heart can still turn, and while the path back to safety is still open before you, there comes a moment in every spiritual battle when the danger is no longer theoretical. It becomes personal. It becomes costly. It begins touching what you carry, what you protect, and what you may lose if you keep telling yourself that one wrong choice is too small to matter. This is the part many people want to avoid, because once you look honestly at the cost, you can no longer pretend the warning is excessive. You can no longer hide behind emotion and call it harmless. You have to face the truth that some decisions do not just affect one night, one mood, or one passing weakness. They reach into your strength. They touch your peace. They bruise your clarity. They interfere with the flow of grace that was meant to keep your life aligned. That is why spiritual death rarely starts with some dramatic public collapse. It often starts with loss that feels invisible at first. You lose sharpness. You lose tenderness. You lose the ability to discern what once felt obvious. Your appetite changes. Your boundaries soften. Your private conversations with God become less alive, less honest, less frequent. You still look like yourself on the outside, but within, something precious is being worn down. This is what makes compromise so serious. It does not only wound behavior, it weakens the inner man. It teaches the soul to live beneath its calling. Samson knew something about that erosion. His story is not only a story about strength, it is a story about what happens when strength is treated as though it can survive any level of carelessness. He had already seen the hand of God on his life. He had already experienced power that did not come from human ability alone. He had already lived with evidence that he was marked for something greater. Yet even with all of that, he kept stepping toward things that made him vulnerable. This is the tragedy of many chosen people. They think their history with God will protect them from the consequences of present compromise. They think yesterday's victories can cover today's disobedience. But the soul does not stay strong by memory alone. It stays strong through living obedience. The cost becomes real when you realize that every repeated compromise is teaching your heart what to love, what to excuse, and what to follow. What you return to begins returning to shape you. What you excuse begins to govern you. What you hide begins to drain you. At first, you tell yourself that you are still in control. Then one day you notice that your emotions are deciding more than your convictions. Your cravings are speaking louder than truth. And the thing you once thought you could manage has begun managing you. That is the danger standing behind the action being warned against. It is not only about the deed itself. It is about the direction. It is about the slow surrender of spiritual authority. And spiritual authority matters more than many people understand. It is not merely a feeling. It is not religious language. It is the settled inner alignment that gives you strength to resist what is trying to pull you down. It is the peace that lets you say no without feeling deprived. It is the clarity that lets you recognize the counterfeit before it gets close enough to touch your life. When you walk in obedience, there is a weight on your spirit that keeps you anchored. But when compromise becomes habitual, that weight begins to lift. Prayer feels thinner. Discernment feels weaker. Temptation feels louder. Then the very thing that once repelled you begins to feel strangely normal. Samson's path reflects this with painful honesty. He did not lose everything in one instant without warning. He moved step by step toward vulnerability, and each step made the next one easier. That is the pattern you must interrupt in your own life. The enemy would love for you to wait until the damage is visible. He would love for you to treat warning as an overreaction and consequence as something distant. But wisdom understands that the time to turn back is not after the harvest of disobedience appears. The time to turn back is when the seed is still in your hand. And that brings you to a serious question. What is this action really promising you? Relief, comfort, validation, escape, control, numbness. Whatever it is, ask yourself whether it can truly heal what only God can restore. Many of the choices that wound chosen people are built on a false promise. They offer quick relief for deep pain. They offer sensation instead of healing. They offer distraction instead of deliverance. For a moment, they seem to solve the problem. But afterward, the hunger is still there. The ache is still there, And now guilt has joined the room as well. That is why you must not judge a decision by how it feels in the moment. You must judge it by what it plants in your spirit. For some of you, the problem is not lack of desire to do right. The problem is exhaustion. Your mind has been overloaded. Your focus has been scattered. Stress has made you easier to pull in the wrong direction. When the mind is tired, temptation can feel more persuasive than it really is. In seasons like that, practical support can help you create space to think clearly again. One product some people use for that purpose is the Genius Wave, also called Genius Song. It is presented as a short 7-minute audio built around brainwave entrainment, using sounds such as binaural beats and isochronic tones, with the goal of supporting focus, calm, clearer thinking, creativity, memory, and reduced stress. It is described as helping people who feel mentally foggy, overwhelmed, distracted, anxious, or mentally drained, and it is offered as a digital audio product with a one-time payment and a 90-day money-back policy. If that sounds relevant to your situation, you can check the official information through the description or the pinned comment. Be careful with imitation pages and fake versions, and only use the official source if you decide to try it. Now you begin to see why you were targeted in the first place. It is not because you are weak. It is not because you are forgotten. It is not because heaven has abandoned you. You are targeted because your life carries consequence. The enemy does not invest this much pressure into empty vessels. He studies what threatens darkness. And what threatens darkness most is not noise, not appearance, not even talent by itself, but a soul that is truly surrendered to God. A chosen life creates disruption in places where deception would rather remain comfortable. Your presence, your obedience, your prayer, your healing, your future testimony, all of it carries the power to undo cycles that have ruled for generations. That is why the pressure around you has felt so personal. It is not random resistance. It is strategic opposition. This is what Samson's life reveals with painful clarity. He was marked from the beginning. There was a distinction on him that existed before he ever proved himself in battle. He carried a purpose larger than private success. His life was meant to confront oppression. His strength was not given merely so he could impress people. It was given so he could stand against forces that had terrorized others for too long. In the same way, what God placed on your life was not given only for your comfort. It was given because there are battles tied to your assignment. There are people who will breathe easier because you obeyed. There are chains that break more easily when you remain aligned. There are lies that lose power when a chosen one refuses compromise. That is why your temptations are often attached to your calling. The enemy looks for the door that gives him access to your strength. He does not always attack you where you are already guarded. He attacks where your hunger is strongest, where your emotions are tenderest, where disappointment has left the deepest bruise. If he can bend your appetite, he can begin bending your direction. If he can make you trust the wrong voice, he can weaken the authority of the right one. If he can get you to confuse desire with destiny, he can pull you off course while making it feel like you are only following your heart. Samson was feared by external enemies, but his greater vulnerability was internal. His strength was undeniable. Yet he kept exposing himself to what could slowly undermine him. That is why chosen people must never mistake visible power for hidden safety. You can be strong in one area and still careless in another. You can be anointed in public and undisciplined in private. You can carry real purpose and still flirt with what is trying to devour your peace. The enemy knows this. He knows that he does not always have to overpower a chosen one. Sometimes he only needs to persuade them to lower the gate themselves. This should change how you read your battles. Not every attack is proof that you are failing. Some attacks are proof that you matter. Some battles intensify because your next season carries weight. Some temptations increase because the enemy senses movement around your destiny. Some pressures become unusually personal because there is something ahead of you that would glorify God in a way darkness cannot tolerate. So when you ask why the struggle has been so fierce, part of the answer may be this: you are carrying more than you realize. Your future obedience is more dangerous to hell than your current frustration is painful to you. But that truth comes with responsibility. Being targeted is not permission to become careless. It is a reason to become more discerning. You must stop seeing your private compromises as isolated events with no larger meaning. When the enemy presses hardest around your emotions, your cravings, your loneliness, or your exhaustion, it is because he is trying to reach something behind those feelings. He wants your agreement. He wants your attention. He wants your yes. He wants to convert a temporary weakness into a permanent pattern. And once a pattern settles in, it begins to shape identity. Then a chosen person starts saying, "This is just who I am," when in truth it is only what they kept rehearsing. That is why Scripture speaks so plainly about the struggle. It says, "Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. Notice the language: seeking, watching, looking for access, looking for vulnerability, looking for a moment when a soul becomes easier to pull. The enemy is not casual about your life, so you cannot afford to be casual either. Spiritual alertness is not fear, it is wisdom. It is the quiet understanding that what is after you is not always visible, but it is still real. And yet there is another side to this. The fact that you are targeted does not mean you are doomed. It means you must understand your value correctly. Samson's story is tragic not because he had no calling, but because he underestimated how much his calling required consecration. He carried power, but power was never meant to replace vigilance. The same is true for you. Your gift will not guard you if your heart keeps excusing what God is warning you to confront. Your future will not protect itself. Your peace will not defend itself. Your soul requires your agreement with God's boundaries. So this is not the time to feel sorry for yourself. This is the time to wake up to your significance. The war around you makes more sense when you understand what is within you. You were never just another person passing through life unnoticed in the spirit. There is oil on you. There is calling on you. There is a future on you. There is a sound in your obedience that darkness recognizes even before people do. That is why compromise has been marketed to you so carefully. That is why the trap has worn such persuasive clothing. That is why the pressure has tried to meet you in moments of weakness. You are targeted because you matter. But being targeted does not mean you must surrender. It means you must remember who you are and what your yes to God protects. Samson's life is warning you from within its own sorrow. What is precious in you can be weakened if you keep offering access to the wrong things. And what heaven has marked for impact must be guarded with holy seriousness. The enemy came for Samson because there was strength on him. He comes for you because there is purpose on you. That is the very reason you cannot afford to hand over your inner life to anything that promises comfort while secretly preparing to consume your calling. There comes a point in a spiritual battle when the voice of warning grows more personal, more precise, and more difficult to ignore. It no longer feels like a distant principle. It feels like someone standing at the door of your soul, refusing to let you sleep through your own danger. That is where you are now. The voice you must not ignore is not the voice of panic, not the voice of accusation, and not the voice of shame. It is the voice of conviction. It is the holy interruption that comes before a deeper fall. It is the mercy of God pressing against your excuses and saying, "Stop here. Do not go farther. Do not cross this line and call it harmless. Do not baptize your desire and pretend I did not warn you." Many people miss this voice because they expect God to speak only in dramatic ways. They look for thunder, but He often speaks through disturbance. He speaks through the uneasiness you cannot explain away. He speaks through the loss of peace that shows up whenever you entertain the wrong direction. He speaks through the sudden heaviness that falls on your spirit when your flesh is trying to justify what heaven has already rejected. Conviction is not always loud, but it is clear to the heart that has not gone numb. It tells you that something is off before consequences become visible. It tells you that the path you are considering may offer emotional relief, but it will cost more than you are prepared to pay. This is why conviction must be cherished, not resented. It is one of the greatest mercies God gives a chosen one. When conviction still reaches you, it means your heart has not been abandoned. It means the door is not closed. It means heaven is still contending for your agreement. The most dangerous thing you can do in this moment is call conviction negativity, fear, or overthinking. The flesh always wants to rename what threatens its plans. It says, "You are being too strict." It says, "This is not that serious." It says, "You deserve this." It says, "No one will know." But the Spirit knows better. The Spirit recognizes the difference between peace and permission. The Spirit knows when something carries the scent of compromise, even if the mind keeps trying to dress it in softer language. Samson's story turns sharply around this very issue. Again and again, his life reveals what happens when the inner warning is not treated with the seriousness it deserves. He was not ignorant of his calling. He was not without signs. He did not move through life with no evidence that God had marked him. Yet familiarity with strength can make a person careless with warning. When you have seen God move in your life, you may begin assuming that grace will always cover what wisdom is trying to stop. That assumption is deadly. Grace is not permission to keep moving toward what is trying to weaken you. Grace warns. Grace restrains. Grace reaches for you before the chain fully closes. There had to be moments in Samson's journey when the inner signal was present. Moments when he knew he was too close to danger. Moments when discernment tried to rise above desire. But repeated compromise teaches a person to silence the very voice that could save them. That is why this section matters so much. The voice you must not ignore may be speaking to you right now through a simple restlessness, through an inability to feel settled about a choice you keep trying to force, through the repeated return of this message to your attention. That is not random. That is mercy standing in your path. And mercy does not always feel comfortable. Sometimes mercy feels like interruption. Sometimes it feels like frustration because it blocks the thing your emotions want. Sometimes it feels like exposure because it forces you to admit what you were trying to hide from yourself. But mercy is still mercy, even when it confronts you. In fact, the confrontation may be the very proof of God's love in this hour. He is not trying to embarrass you. He is trying to preserve you. He is not trying to strip away your joy. He is trying to keep counterfeit comfort from draining your strength. Think about how many people ignore warning because the dangerous thing speaks more sweetly than truth. Truth often asks you to wait, to deny yourself, to step back, to surrender what feels urgent. The flesh hates that. It wants immediate relief. It wants a quick answer to a deep ache. It wants to touch what looks like comfort before testing whether it carries poison. That is why conviction is so essential. It slows you down long enough to remember that not everything calling your name deserves your response. Not everything that makes you feel alive is giving life. Some things awaken your flesh while suffocating your spirit. You may already know this from experience. You may have felt the difference between a decision that brought peace and one that only brought temporary excitement, followed by heaviness. You may have already lived through the pain of ignoring that inner check and discovering later that it was trying to save you. If so, then do not waste that lesson. Let it sharpen you now. Let past sorrow become present wisdom. Let the ache of earlier mistakes teach you to honor conviction faster this time. And as you keep walking through messages like this, staying close to truth matters. Sometimes a word arrives at the exact moment your soul needs reinforcement, and that too is part of God's way of keeping you awake. So stay near what feeds your discernment. Like this message, if it is speaking to your spirit, share it with someone who may be fighting a hidden battle. Subscribe if you want to keep receiving words that strengthen your inner life. And if you feel led to support this work, there is a way to donate in the description. These actions are not the center of your obedience, but they can become simple acts of agreement with the truth God is placing before you. The essential thing is this: do not ignore the voice that is checking you. Do not run from the discomfort that is trying to rescue you. Do not mistake holy restraint for deprivation. What God is saying no to may be the very thing standing between you and unnecessary sorrow. Samson's path reminds you that when warning is repeatedly silenced, consequences grow louder. But you are still in the moment where conviction can lead. You are still in the moment where turning back is possible. You are still in the moment where the voice of God can be honored before the cost becomes heavier. So listen closely. Beneath the noise, beneath the desire, and beneath the arguments your mind keeps making, there is a wiser voice calling you back to yourself, back to truth, back to alignment. That voice is not your enemy. It is your rescue. And the chosen one who learns to obey that voice early avoids battles that never needed to become scars. This is the part many souls do not recognize until they are already deep inside it. Spiritual blindness does not usually arrive in one violent instant. It develops. It thickens. It settles over the heart layer by layer. Often while a person still believes they are seeing clearly. That is what makes it so dangerous. When the heart begins to harden, truth does not always disappear all at once. It simply stops feeling urgent. Warnings lose their weight. Conviction loses its sharpness. What once felt holy begins to feel optional, and what once felt dangerous begins to feel normal. This is how a chosen one can move toward ruin while still using spiritual language, still remembering old victories, still telling themselves they are in control. A hardened heart is not merely a heart that has sinned. It is a heart that has started resisting the pain of being corrected. It no longer wants interruption. It no longer wants truth that cuts across desire. It wants comfort without surrender, blessing without obedience, peace without repentance. And because that inner posture is so subtle at first, many do not notice the change until their reactions reveal it. They grow impatient with truth. They become defensive when challenged. They feel irritated by what used to humble them. They avoid stillness because silence makes the deeper condition harder to ignore. Their outer life may still be functioning, but inwardly they are becoming less reachable. That is the sorrow running through Samson's story. There is a terrible difference between being strong and being awake. Samson still carried memories of strength, but memory is not the same thing as present sensitivity. He had seen God move through his life again and again. He had experienced victories that should have deepened his reverence, yet repeated closeness to compromise was shaping him in another direction. He kept playing with what was dangerous, and over time that pattern did not merely threaten his circumstances. It threatened his discernment. It trained him to treat warning lightly. It taught him to remain near what should have driven him to holy distance. This is how blindness begins. You stop asking the right questions. Instead of asking whether something is pure, you ask whether it is manageable. Instead of asking whether it draws you closer to God, you ask whether you can keep it hidden. Instead of asking what it will do to your spirit, you ask how much pleasure or relief it can bring before consequences show up. These are the questions of a soul that is already drifting into dangerous fog. When the heart is tender, it wants truth more than comfort. When the heart is hardening, it wants comfort more than truth. Samson reached a place where the pattern had become part of his rhythm. That is what repeated compromise does. It makes the abnormal feel familiar. It teaches the soul to move through danger without trembling. It removes the shock. It lowers the alarm. And once that happens, then a chosen person can stand near the edge with a frightening sense of normalcy. They can keep telling themselves that because judgment has not arrived yet, they are still safe, but delayed consequence is not proof of divine approval. Sometimes it is mercy giving one more opportunity to wake up before the full harvest appears. There is a line in Samson's story that carries a chilling weight because it reveals how blindness can hide from the person who is living inside it. The tragedy is not only that danger was near him. The tragedy is that he no longer seemed to measure danger correctly. Familiarity with compromise had dulled his fear of it. That is the real terror of a hardened heart. It loses the ability to feel alarm at what should alarm it. The soul starts calling darkness manageable, starts calling compromise understandable, starts calling spiritual exhaustion normal. And because the change is gradual, it can go unnoticed until something precious has already been lost. Scripture says, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." Hebrews chapter 3, verse 15. That command is full of mercy. It means hardness is not inevitable. It can still be resisted. The heart can still respond while the voice of God is being heard. But the warning also means that hearing alone is not enough. A person can hear and still harden. A person can recognize truth and still push it away. A person can feel conviction and still decide that desire deserves the final word. This is why repeated disobedience is never a small matter. Every ignored warning shapes what the heart becomes more able to ignore next time. Spiritual blindness also affects identity. A chosen one in this condition begins to forget who they are beneath the appetite, beneath the pain, beneath the repeated compromises. They begin interpreting themselves through their weakness rather than through their calling. Shame and dullness combine until the soul feels less radiant, less awake, less able to imagine true freedom. Then the enemy adds another lie. He says this is just your nature now. He says this is simply who you are. He says tenderness is gone for good. But even that lie must be resisted, because the very fact that truth still reaches you means you are not beyond rescue. Still, the warning remains severe. A hardened heart does not only stop feeling conviction strongly, it also becomes more vulnerable to deeper deception. When spiritual sight dims, people start trusting the wrong voices. They confuse manipulation for comfort. They confuse emotional intensity for genuine life. They confuse temporary relief for lasting peace. They move by impulse instead of wisdom, by craving instead of discernment. Samson's life warns you that once the heart has grown too familiar with compromise, the cost becomes heavier than the person imagined at the beginning. The first step looked simple. The later consequences were not. So examine your inner life honestly. Are you still quick to respond when God checks you? Or are you becoming harder to move? Do you still feel grief over what weakens your spirit? Or have you begun managing things that should be surrendered? Do you still love truth when it confronts you, or only when it comforts you? These questions matter because blindness rarely announces itself. It reveals itself through reduced sensitivity, reduced reverence, reduced urgency. Yet even here, the warning itself is mercy. You are being shown the path of hardness before it fully claims more of your heart. Samson's sorrow is not being retold to entertain you. It is being placed before you like a mirror and a rescue sign. Do not let repeated compromise teach your soul to stop trembling. Do not let delayed consequence convince you that you are safe. Do not let the slow fading of discomfort become your new normal. The voice of God is still reaching for you, and while that voice is still heard, the heart can still soften, the eyes can still open, and the drift toward blindness does not have to become your final story. The mercy of God is most powerful when it meets you before it is too late, and that is exactly what is happening here. You are not being called back after every light has gone out. You are being called back while there is still breath in your spirit, while there is still movement in your conscience, while there is still an opening to turn before the wrong path tightens around your life. That is why breaking free must happen now, not later, not when the consequences are heavier, not when the heart is duller, not when the chains are stronger. The chosen one who waits for a better moment often discovers that delay itself has become part of the trap. Freedom begins when you stop negotiating with what God already told you to release. This is the turning point, not because the temptation has disappeared, but because truth has become too clear to ignore. You now understand that the danger was never just the outward action. It was the inward agreement. It was the quiet permission. It was the secret partnership between your pain and the counterfeit comfort that promised to soothe it. Breaking free means ending that agreement. It means saying with full seriousness that what once had access to your mind, your emotions and your fantasies, or your private habits will not continue occupying that space. It means you stop treating compromise like a harmless visitor and finally call it what it is: a thief at the gate of your calling. This is where Samson's story becomes both warning and invitation. His life shows what compromise can steal, but it also leaves you with the urgency to act before the loss becomes complete. Every step he took toward danger made the next step easier, and every ignored warning made the next warning quieter. That is why your response must be decisive. You do not break free by admiring the truth. You break free by obeying it. You break free by cutting off what keeps feeding the weakness. You break free by refusing to romanticize what has already shown signs of poison. You break free by honoring the discomfort of obedience more than the temporary sweetness of disobedience. Many people want deliverance without separation. They want peace without changing access. They want God to remove the struggle while they continue preserving the doorway that lets the struggle in. But freedom does not grow where compromise is being fed. At some point, a chosen one must decide that their soul is worth protecting. That decision may feel costly in the moment. It may require letting go of a habit, a conversation, a secret attachment, a fantasy, a place, or a pattern that became emotionally familiar. Yet what feels costly now may be saving you from a far greater sorrow later. Obedience can feel sharp at first because it cuts away what your flesh had learned to crave. But that sharpness is healing, not harm. This is why repentance must be understood correctly. Repentance is not merely feeling bad. Repentance is turning. It is movement. It is the deliberate act of changing direction because truth has exposed where the old direction leads. Some people cry but do not turn. Some people regret but do not release. Some people feel conviction but still protect the very thing that keeps them weak. That is not freedom. Freedom begins when your will joins what God is already saying. Freedom begins when you say, I will no longer defend what is draining me. I will no longer feed what is darkening my discernment. I will no longer make peace with the thing that is making war against my spirit. Scripture says, submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James chapter 4, verse 7. Notice the order. Submit first, resist next. True resistance is not merely self-effort, it rises from alignment. When your life comes back under God's authority and something strengthens inside you, clarity returns, resolve returns. The soul begins remembering what it was like to stand in clean air again. That is why breaking free is not only about what you reject, it is also about what you return to. You return to prayer that is honest. You return to stillness that lets God search you. You return to truth that confronts and heals. You return to boundaries that protect your peace instead of restricting your joy. And let this be said clearly. Breaking free may require immediate action, not tomorrow, not after one more indulgence, not after one more private goodbye to the thing that has already proven dangerous. Some traps grow stronger every time you revisit them. Some doors must be shut without ceremony. Some ties must be cut without sentimentality. The flesh always wants a slower exit because it is secretly hoping for one more taste. But wisdom knows that delay can be deadly. A chosen one who keeps standing in the doorway of compromise is still within reach of its pull. Step fully out. This is also the moment to break agreement with the lie that you are too far gone. That lie is part of the bondage. It tells you that because you drifted, you cannot return with power. It tells you that because you repeated the mistake, your sincerity no longer matters. It tells you that because your heart has been tired. Freedom belongs to someone stronger than you. But none of that is truth. The fact that this message is piercing you means grace is still active. The fact that conviction is rising means heaven is still calling. The fact that you are being warned means there is still a path back through surrender. So make this personal. Do not admire these words and then return to the same private negotiations. Let this be the moment when the pattern breaks. Let this be the hour when your spirit stops bowing to what your future cannot afford. And as a simple act of agreement, comment, I turn back. Let that be your line in the sand, not as a performance, but as a declaration that you are done protecting the thing that was trying to destroy your peace. You are not powerless here. You are not trapped unless you keep partnering with the trap. The same God who warned you is able to strengthen you. The same voice that exposed the danger is able to lead you out of it. Samson's story has shown you what happens when warnings are ignored, but your story is still unfolding. You can still choose differently. You can still close the door. You can still return before the night grows darker. Break free now, while the voice of mercy is near, while truth is vivid, while your soul can still feel the weight of what is at stake. This is not the end of your strength. This is the moment you reclaim it by walking away from what was never worthy of your surrender. When obedience returns, something more than relief begins to rise inside you. Authority returns, not borrowed noise, not forced confidence, not the kind of energy that tries to sound strong while still secretly shaking, but true spiritual authority, the settled strength that comes from realignment with God. This is what many chosen ones forget in seasons of struggle. Obedience does not only keep you from danger, it restores your position. It brings you back under covering. It steadies what compromise was scattering. It gathers the inner life again so that your spirit is no longer leaking strength through hidden agreements with what was trying to weaken you. That is why the path back matters so much. You are not merely stepping away from a bad decision. You are stepping back into alignment. You are reclaiming the inner ground where peace can stand guard again. You are returning to the place where discernment becomes clearer, where prayer breathes again, where your soul is not constantly fighting the fog that compromise creates. Many people think obedience is mostly about restriction, but in truth, obedience is restoration. It repairs what drift was eroding. It rebuilds what hidden disobedience was quietly tearing down. It returns weight to your words, focus to your mind, steadiness to your heart, and clarity to your direction. This is where Samson's story becomes painfully important and unexpectedly instructive. His life had already shown the cost of carelessness, the sorrow of repeated compromise, and the devastation that follows when warning is ignored too long. Yet even in the wreckage, something deeper remained. Though he had fallen terribly and though he had suffered the bitter harvest of his choices, the story does not end by proving that God had no final use for him. It reveals that even after ruin, the issue was still alignment. The issue was still whether the broken man would turn back toward the God whose strength he had once treated too lightly. That matters for you because the enemy wants you to believe that once you have drifted, your authority can never return. He wants you to imagine that if compromise touched your life, then covering is gone forever, clarity is gone forever, usefulness is gone forever. But that is not how mercy works. Mercy does not pretend the damage was unreal, but it also does not surrender your future to your worst moment. When a chosen one truly returns, something holy begins to rebuild, not instantly in every visible area, not cheaply and not without humility, but genuinely. God knows how to restore a soul that stops arguing and starts surrendering. Samson's latter moments carry that haunting truth. His earlier strength had been misused, his discernment had been dulled, and his life had moved through humiliation and loss. Yet in the end, beneath the sorrow, there was still the reality that strength belonged to God first. That means authority was never ultimately sourced in Samson's own greatness. It was entrusted. And anything entrusted by God remains under God's power to renew, redirect, and use according to His will. This is why your hope cannot rest in your own consistency alone. It must rest in the character of the God who restores those who truly return. Still, restoration is not casual. You do not reclaim spiritual authority by speaking positive words over a life that still protects compromise. You reclaim it by coming fully back into agreement with God. Authority returns where surrender deepens. Covering becomes felt again where obedience becomes real again. Discernment sharpens where secrecy is broken and the soul stops bargaining with darkness. This is not about performance. It is about alignment. Heaven does not strengthen your excuses. Heaven strengthens your surrender. Perhaps that is what you are feeling now. a desire not only to avoid destruction but to stand rightly again, a hunger not merely to be forgiven, but to be restored in your inner posture. That desire is holy. It is evidence that your spirit recognizes what it was made for. You are not created to live divided, half in truth and half in compromise. You are not designed to survive on spiritual fumes while pretending everything is fine. You are made to walk with weight, with clarity, with a guarded heart and an open heaven over your life. The return to obedience is the return to that place. Scripture says, "Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you." James chapter 4, verse 8. That promise is simple, but it carries enormous power. It tells you that movement toward God is not ignored. Heaven responds to real return, not theatrical emotion, not empty language, but genuine drawing near. When you come back, God does not stand at a distance asking whether you deserve restoration. He meets surrender with presence, and where His presence settles, false strength loses its appeal because true strength has entered the room. That is how divine protection becomes real again in your life, not as superstition, not as a formula, but as the fruit of abiding near the one who sees farther than you do. Protection is not merely being kept from visible disaster. It is being guided away from what would slowly poison your peace. It is having your spirit checked before your feet go too far. It is being made sensitive enough to recognize danger early and humble enough to respond quickly. In that kind of life, authority is not loud, but it is unmistakable. You begin to stand differently. You carry yourself differently. You stop negotiating with what once pulled you because something steadier now rules within you. Samson's story does not invite you to admire tragedy. It invites you to learn from it and move differently while there is still time. His life reminds you that strength without obedience becomes unstable. But it also reminds you that God remains God even when man has failed. So now the question is no longer whether the trap was real. You know it was. The question is whether you will remain in full agreement with the God who is calling you back into wholeness. If you do, you will not only escape what was trying to destroy you, you will recover ground. You will feel your inner life come back under order. You will find that peace is not as far away as fear told you. You will discover that obedience does not shrink your life. It shields it, steadies it, and returns you to the place where divine strength can flow without obstruction. This is how authority is reclaimed. This is how covering is felt again. This is how the chosen one rises from the edge and stands under God's hand with a cleaner spirit, a wiser heart, and a deeper reverence for what must never again be handed over to compromise. And this is where the story turns from warning into victory, from trembling into steadiness, from the shadow of spiritual death into the light of holy endurance. You were never meant to live forever at the edge of collapse, always negotiating with temptation, always explaining away the uneasiness in your spirit, always one private compromise away from deeper darkness. You were meant to overcome this. You were meant to rise with greater wisdom than before, greater humility than before, and greater discernment than before. The very battle that tried to break you can become the place where your obedience grows stronger, your vision grows clearer, and your dependence on God becomes deeper than it has ever been. That is the final truth this message has been carrying from the beginning. The warning was serious because your calling is serious. The danger was real because what rests on your life is real. The enemy came after your weakness because he could sense your purpose. He wanted your agreement, your surrender, your carelessness, your delay. He wanted to turn a moment of vulnerability into a longer season of bondage. He wanted to make you believe that one small compromise would not matter, and then use that small compromise to touch your strength, your clarity, your peace, and your future. But heaven interrupted the pattern. Mercy spoke before the fall became final. Truth reached you before numbness became complete. And now you are standing in a moment where the right response can change the direction of everything. Samson's story has walked beside you through these sections like a solemn witness. His life showed you how closeness to danger becomes familiarity, how familiarity becomes dullness, how dullness becomes blindness, and how blindness opens the door to sorrow. Yet even his story, painful as it is, has pointed beyond ruin to the reality that God still responds when the heart turns back. That should leave you with holy fear. Yes, but also with holy hope. You do not need to repeat the same pattern. You do not need to keep circling the same trap until it finally takes more than you ever intended to give. You can let this moment become your turning point. You can let this warning become your awakening. Because the chosen one who survives is not the one who never faced temptation. It is the one who learned to honor God's voice above desire. It is the one who stopped romanticizing what was killing peace. It is the one who decided that obedience was not a burden but a shield. It is the one who understood that saying no to the wrong thing is often how you say yes to your real future. And that is what is opening before you now. Not just escape, but restoration. Not just avoidance of destruction, but entrance into strength. Not just relief from fear, but a deeper confidence that your life can stand in truth without secretly leaning toward compromise. So let your heart settle here for a moment and pray, not as a performance, not as borrowed language, but as a real surrender rising from within you. Lord, keep me close when my flesh wants to wander. Guard my mind when thoughts try to pull me away from what is pure. Strengthen my spirit where I have been tired, exposed, or tempted to settle for counterfeit comfort. Break every secret agreement I have made with what weakens me. Restore tenderness where my heart has grown dull. Restore clarity where compromise has brought confusion. Teach me to love your voice more than my cravings, to trust your warning more than my impulses, and to choose obedience even when it costs me something in the moment. Protect what you placed inside me. Do not let my calling be traded for temporary relief. Let my life stand under your hand, clean, guarded, and ready for every good thing you prepared for me. In Jesus' name, amen. Let that prayer remain with you. Return to it when your mind feels foggy. Return to it when temptation tries to rename itself as comfort. Return to it when delay whispers that you can deal with this tomorrow. There are moments in life when tomorrow is too expensive. This is a now moment. This is a line in the sand. This is where the chosen one remembers that weakness does not have to become identity, and struggle does not have to become destiny. What matters most is what you do when truth has made the path clear. And as you keep walking, stay close to what keeps your spirit awake. Like this message, if it spoke to you, share it with someone who may be quietly fighting the same kind of battle. And subscribe so you can remain connected to messages that strengthen your inner life and sharpen your discernment. And if this work has blessed you and you want to help it keep reaching others, there is a way to donate in the description. Let every one of those actions be simple, sincere, and rooted in agreement with what God is doing in your life right now. You are not leaving this message empty-handed. You are leaving with warning, with wisdom, with a mirror, with a prayer, and with a decision. Do not underestimate that decision. One act of obedience can interrupt a cycle that has been trying to build for months. One surrendered moment can save you from years of unnecessary sorrow. One holy refusal can preserve oil that your future will desperately need. That is why this message has spoken so directly. Not to frighten you into paralysis, but to awaken you into courage. Not to leave you staring at danger, but to move you firmly away from it. Not to remind you only of what could be lost, but to show you what can still be preserved. You were meant to overcome this. You were meant to walk away from the trap with deeper reverence and stronger boundaries. You were meant to come out of this season wiser, cleaner, steadier, and more dangerous to darkness than before. The thing that tried to become your spiritual death does not get the final word. God's mercy reached first. God's truth spoke first. God's hand is still extended. Take it fully, and do not look back. The warning has been spoken. The mirror has been held up, and the choice has been placed clearly before you. Now let peace return to your spirit. Not the false peace that comes from ignoring conviction, but the true peace that settles over a life brought back into alignment with God. You do not need to fear the future when you are walking in obedience today. You do not need to keep rehearsing the trap once you have chosen the narrow path. Let this message stay with you in quiet moments. Let it echo when temptation tries to speak sweetly again. Let it remind you that your soul is precious, your calling is weighty, and your obedience is never wasted. The God who warned you is the God who will keep you, strengthen you, and lead you forward with wisdom. So go on with a guarded heart, clear eyes, and renewed reverence. What nearly weakened you can now teach you. What nearly trapped you can now sharpen you. And what nearly became a place of death can become a testimony that God preserved you for something greater.